When we think about the business drivers for AI, right? So I don't really talk about why we are doing AI, why we're doing technology, right? And in the opening remarks, you talked about, the people side, the process side, right? I want you all to think about this in terms of a three-legged stool. You know what a three-legged stool looks like, right? Got three legs, right? So if you look at the three legs are people, process, and enabling technology. AI is nothing more than enabling technology, right? So let's not mystify it. Let's demystify it and say what it is. However, if you don't do them all equally, what happens? You kind of get one leg that's a little wobbly. And when you try to sit down, what do? You kind of shake around a little bit, right? Or if one leg's missing altogether, if you take the people out, what happens? You can sit, but it's kind of hard, right? So you really got to think about that in this context, right? So as we go through and talk to our customers, as we talk in conferences like this, we talk about that three-legged stool mentality. Think about it being equally important. They are all equally important. So when we talk about processes, we talk about the people. Why are we doing this? What are we being pushed to do? There's a question earlier about how do I measure ROI? How do I measure metrics? It's because of things like this. What are you doing today that's a pain point? How much people time are you spending doing this? What can you automate? Or what can AI help you with in terms of conversations, in terms of going out and retrieving stuff? When you think about something as simple as regulatory compliance, AI is really good because you can integrate to that data that already sits and go ask it questions. Does this build inquire? What am I missing? Do I fit this province? Do I fit this state? Do I fit this county type of requirement? Does my model work? Whether that be infrastructure, whether that be a construction plan, whether it be a manufacturing plant, whatever the case may be. You have to think about it in those terms. You must define a strategy of what you want. What is success look like for you and your business, okay? The other thing I tell you to do is keep it simple, right? The KISS principle. If you keep it simple, think of AI, think of technology as an elephant, right? How do you consume an elephant? One bite at a time, right? If you try to do it all at once, you usually fail, right? So you really got to think about that, right? So then you get some common objectives. What are we trying to achieve? We want to be faster. We want to do more with less. How many of you are having cost pressures from your business? How many of you can go out and hire an army of people to go write RFIs or to create drawings or to do takeoff lists? Not many people are raising their hand. Okay, you've got to do more with less. The business pressure, the economic pressures, the competitive landscape is do more with less and do it faster. I was telling Ben this morning, I said, I'm going to steal this crap in, crap out because I like that better than garbage in, garbage out, right? But these are the things you have to measure for success, okay? And what I tell people is think about it from where you're at today on your journey. Raise a hand. Who here has started an AI journey? Who's thinking about it? Well, you all should be raising your hand if you're thinking about it. Okay. So the bottom line is that think about what do you want it to do, because that's going to guide you along the way. You don't have to solve world peace all at once. Do it in pieces. Okay. Think about it in terms of your business. So we talk in terms of use cases. You've not seen one technology statement so far. There's a reason for that. I'm worried about people. I'm worried about process right now. What are my use cases? What am I trying to accomplish? And then what am I going to impact with this new technology of AI? And then how do I make that technology effective for my people? Right? So these are the things you have to do. So these are some of the use cases. Just to give you some ideas, do these all make sense? Do you recognize some of these use cases? Do you do these things? Right? But here's the challenge. So now you're going back to that cartoon. I want it now. Hit the easy button. Where's the magic bullet? But when you go look at the hype versus the niche versus the scenario, if you go out and Google AI for construction, this was true as of about a week ago. I can tell you right now, it's different yet again. It changes all the time. So the other question was, how do I evaluate the technology? How do I evaluate what I should pick? Okay. Again, I go back to what's your objective? What's your use case? Okay. What are you trying to solve? Is it project cost management? These are the things that are going to help you with this. A lot of these, if you go look at them in detail, they're integration engines. Huh? Raptors. Exactly right. Okay. The other thing you're going to find too is consolidation's coming. So some of the definitions that and you've heard this talk about this morning already. People have talked about language models, but we're introducing some new things around AI. So this thing called TAC that we have to teach our people, right? A language model. Frankly, guys, it's really simple. It's how you talk. How do I want to ask questions? Now, the one thing that you saw this morning was language models, some results. What they didn't tell you was how you have to build it. And guess what? A language model is now data. Okay? So when we start talking about data and data readiness and process readiness and maturity, this now comes into play. Okay? The rules, again, the same type of thing. When you looked at some of the stuff around Alice this morning, those are all rules. And I will tell you straight up that as you go through the rules modeling, as you go through these definitions, you now have a new process. How do I maintain it? When it gives me the wrong result, how do I fix it? Okay? If I get the wrong data, there's a data concern coming up. Whether you're doing public or private, what they call public domain or private domain data. If you're doing public domain, I went through a class, took an MIT class. It was fascinating. Over the course of 4 days, we taught an AI engine that 2 + 2 = 5. Okay? That's what happens if you don't think about your data. Okay? Agentic AI, for those of you that we're talking about, how many people want to really automate some things? How many think you've got things that are redundant that you can automate over and over and over again? Okay? An agentic AI is going to really drive that because it's self-learning. What happens when I see this? You still got to teach it, right? But you're seeing this in the lexicon. If you heard, who here went to Autodesk University this year? How many times did you hear agentic AI? Too many times. I fully agree with that statement. Right? But these are the words you're starting to hear. You're seeing it in TV commercials, for crying out loud. Right? You look at that Matthew McConaughey, Salesforce commercial. I use agentic AI. Like people understand what it means. Right? Predictive. This is where a lot of we talked about this morning. I need to go look and figure out a predictive result. Verification of as built. Am I compliant? Does this model have gaps? Am I missing this? What's missing from this? Am I missing an air conditioner? Am I missing a mullion? Am I missing a color palette? What am I missing? That's predictive. That's analytics, right? You get into generative. Now I'm getting to where I'm actually building something. The one thing I'll say back to I loved your opening comment about people, by the way. I really did. When you talk about people, process, tech, right? What you're going to see, what you have to think about for your people is AI is not going to take your job. A person who knows how to use AI will take your job. Okay? So these are the things you have to teach your people along the way. Okay? So introducing this technology, you're now impacting the people and the process. Okay? GPTs are pretty straightforward, what you're seeing today. Gemini, OpenAI, Copilot, you ask a question, you get a result. The key here there is making sure that recognize where your data sits. If you go to the public domain and ask a question, that license agreement that you never read, that you said yes to, right? As soon as you ask a question in the public domain, if you're in Copilot and it's not private, if you're in ChatGPT and it's not private, it's in the public domain and you can't get it back. I've had customers come to me and go, oh man, I filled out, someone filled out a whole RFI. governance specs, a whole 9 yards, right? In a public domain. Sorry, can't get it back. So you got to be aware of where your data sits, okay? So now you're talking about working with the enterprise, your IT staff, your business staff, figuring out what's going on. These are the impacts of AI to your business. So as you think about this journey, as you think about where you're going, okay, I really want to stress that this is what you look at, okay? You talk a little about the hierarchy, your ideation, your priorities, okay? Different representation of it, okay? How many of you think you can start here at the AI model and be successful without doing anything else? How many of you tried to start at that level and failed? Okay? It really is about building your foundation, okay? And this hierarchy model is really key because it touches the people in the process. Your vision, your culture, your strategy. What am I going to do? How am I going to measure success? Okay, you've got to get through all this, your data quality, your data literacy. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, about your readiness for this, okay? Once you get here, you're ready for the right technology. You're now able to figure out if I'm going to do a project plan, if I'm going to do a construction plan, if I'm going to do a drawing, I know what I want to do and how I'll measure success. The other thing I'll tell you too is don't get stuck on one piece of AI. It's okay to have more than one, as long as it fits your objectives. Okay? One of the things we talk about is hype versus reality. So Autodesk does a survey, Design and Make survey. I pulled this one slide from it because it's really important, right? Your peers in the industry, they look at it and say, is AI going to impact my business? And you can see some of the results, okay? Of the thousands of people, 6,000 people they surveyed, right? This year, it really crept up. What's the biggest barrier they're finding? It's not money. It's not strategy. It's not even people. It's time. They've got a business to run. How do I take the people out of the business and generate new processes, generate new procedures, teach my AI how to talk, right? Time is the biggest barrier, but everybody knows it's coming, okay? So the one thing we leave you with in terms of the approach, keep it simple. Think about your processes, think about your business, then figure out your roadmap of technology, okay? What if you do this, then what you've got is a good approach. And this you can repeat multiple times, okay? Unfortunately, I run into people, I'm here and I can't make it work, okay? We also think, look about your assessing yourself for readiness, okay? We have a standard model we follow for data and for processes. So when the way you read this model is, here's the rules down at the bottom, 1 through 5. 5 means you're perfect. 1 means you're not so perfect, okay? If you look at the data side, as I walk to this side, hopefully I don't hit any speakers, right? The blue is kind of where most people seem to sit today in these categories. The orange is what AI requires. So you got to think about your readiness. So if I ask a question here, okay, since you've been doing some AI, I'm going to ask you, where would you set on a scale of 1 to 5 your data maturity?
We do measure it. We were at about 2.3 this year. We were at 1.7 last year.
Okay, and where do you think an AI needs you to be?
3.5, 4, maybe.
4.2.
Oh,
Okay. Same thing with processes, okay? Most people hear what I'm finding when I go out and talk to my customer base, they've got a lot of good processes, They're missing some things. They've got some manual things that don't make sense. They're not super efficient all the time, but they're better than their data is. Okay? Pete, you agree with that for the most part? But again, you've got to get to the purple for it to be there. Okay? So these are the things that really set up how to be ready and how do I make use of this properly, right? And how do I demystify that? How do you manage your leaders that are pushing you every day? Do more. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? You hear that every day, don't you? Okay. Sample roadmap. This is just a sample roadmap that we talk to people about. Okay. You can parallel things, data maturity, and things like that. There are ROIs in this, by the way. Fix your data. You will be more efficient. You'll be more effective. You will get better results. How much does it cost you to iterate 7 times versus 3 with bad data? You fix that now, with or without a technology, it will help you. Same with process efficiencies. Okay, if you go through and find some bad processes, some simple automations that you can put in place, some chat GPT stuff that works, right? It will start paying dividends in time. Okay? Then you build it up from there. When you think about the call to action, right? We've heard it. You've heard it from our 2 presenters this morning. Data takes a long time to get your data right. Think about data standards. Okay? How many of you here have some kind of ERP in place? Does a BOM, material number, spec the same in your ACC as is your ERP? Wouldn't you think you'd want that to be in sync? You'd be surprised how hard that is. We've been chasing data standards for 30 years. Okay? It's hard. It's not simple. This is the trigger event that's going to force it. Okay? Make sure you have a strategy. Know the impacts. Okay? You've got to understand how you train your people. Okay? It's here. It's coming. You can't avoid it. I know there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of maybes. There's a lot of things. People hear about the AI bubble, right? The reality is it's here. If you don't have a plan in the next 18 months, your competition will. Okay? So you've got to start thinking about this stuff now if you're not already on the journey. Or if you are on the journey, think about where am I and what do I need to change? Do I need to course correct to be successful?